So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Here back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, July 5th here today. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Monday, July 5th here today. Coming off of another big weekend in sports. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend and hopefully everybody enjoyed their July 4th yesterday. Obviously, like I mentioned, coming off of another weekend full of sports, basketball, baseball, more baseball, and add on to some more baseball. It wasn't a successful weekend in baseball at all for the New York Yankees as they lose 2 of 3 to the New York Mets. Obviously, Friday's game got postponed due to rain. You have Saturday's game get played. The Yankees lost 8-3. You lose yesterday's game 10-5. You win game 3, which was the nightcap. You win that. So at least, you win one, but it's still not where the Yankees want to be. Obviously, you win the nightcap 4-2. It's still not where the Yankees want to be. We're one game above 500. I mean, it's frustrating. Not a good performance by the Yankees this weekend, and it stinks to start off the podcast on a negative note and set the tone in a negative way, but it's the truth. I mean, the Yankees just aren't playing good baseball, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. I don't know what more to say. We've been saying the same thing for weeks and months now, right? It's just not. This is not the team we expected. This is not the team that should be playing like this. I mean, this team, we had high expectations for this team, and the expectations, they're exceeding the low expectations. I mean, it's insane. I mean, they are completely not even nearly where we thought they would be at the halfway point of the season. And frankly, we thought that, I don't think many fans out there thought that the Red Sox are going to be in first place at the halfway point of the season. So there is a lot of things that have gone crazy in the MLB season. There is, you saw the Red Sox, their first place. I don't think many people expected that, especially after the year they had last year being terrible. The Giants are in first place in the NL West. I think a lot of us would have predicted either the Dodgers or the Padres. No, it's the San Francisco Giants, with actually the best record in baseball. I don't know if many of us expected the Twins to be this bad. The Red Sox to be this good. Yankees to be this bad. I mean, there's been a lot of surprises so far early on in the MLB season, but like I mentioned, Yankees lose 2 of 3. You win the final one. It's nice to win, but it's still one of those things where it's just like you still lose the series against the Mets, and that's it. You still lose the series. So yes, you win, and you get the last little, I guess, punch, you can kind of say, but you get the last laugh in a way. But at the end of the day, you got a day off today. You got to head to Seattle for a game, obviously against the Mariners. 3 games set in Seattle, 3 in Houston. Come back, I believe after that it might be the All-Star break. I believe so. I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's the All-Star break then, and then after that you got. After that, the second half of the season's upon us, and they got to play much better baseball. So, Mets obviously did win the series. Yankees day off today, as they will head to Seattle to play the Mariners. So a little bit of a West Coast trip here for the New York Yankees, although Houston's not really. Houston as well, they'll head out there. So they'll go to Seattle, then Houston there. So then the Mariners are playing good baseball recently too. They're actually in front of the Yankees in the wild card right now. So this is actually a very big series, even though it's the Mariners and it might not sound like a very big series. It actually is. And the Mets start up a series today against the Milwaukee Brewers at home. Brewers have been a hot team recently. One of the hottest teams in the league. 10, 11 games in a row they've won. So they're rolling. Mets will welcome them to Citi Field today. Yankees get a day off today. Chapman was terrible yesterday. You got to find a way to you got to find something with him. I don't know why he's throwing a 1-2 slider to Alonso when he just got him chasing a high fastball. It makes no sense, but they did. Chapman blew another save. I'm going to get to him later on the podcast, which is why I haven't touched on him yet here, because I don't want to talk too much about him and have nothing to talk about later on. So I'll get to Chapman later. But yeah, Yankees day off today. Stanley Cup continues today. NBA Finals is set. I'll do a preview on that probably tomorrow because the series starts, I believe, tomorrow. So I'll probably do that tomorrow unless if any other news comes up. I'll do an NBA Finals stuff. Stanley Cup Game 4 is tonight. Lightning go for the sweep and the series win. Like I mentioned, Mets welcome a hot Milwaukee Brewers team to Citi Field. They will start up a series against them. And the Yankees have a day off as they head out to Seattle for a 3-game set against the Mariners and a little bit of a road trip. They're obviously 3 in the Mariners, then 3 against Houston to finish off the first half of the season. So, with all that being said, these are, or I believe it's either the first half or then it's next week. And I believe the wild card is, or no, maybe it's not. No. I believe it's, right? I believe the All-Star Game's this upcoming weekend or is it next week? I'm all over the place. It might be next weekend, I believe, because I don't know, or the All-Star Game. I'm not sure, but anyway, Yankees day off today. So, and the Mets play today. Let's get into the topics for today's podcast. As I mentioned on Friday, we will get into the Clippers offseason, so I wanted to talk about that today, so I'm going to get into that today. I'm going to talk about the Clippers offseason. This is kind of one of these things where it's going to be a lot of kind of predicting. It's going to be kind of a lot of, me just throwing out options. It's going to be a lot of, just things that possibly the Los Angeles Clippers could do heading into the offseason. Because obviously with another playoff exit this season, that's not getting to the NBA Finals. That's not their goal. They were expected to make the NBA Finals one of these 2 years. They did not make it last year. They did not make it again this season. And now you head into your third year where, this upcoming season, if the team does decide to stay together, this upcoming year is a make or break year. You either win it or you don't. After this year, it's going to get torn apart. But Kawhi Leonard's got a player option. He could opt out of his deal and become a free agent. And the Clippers might also decide to maybe make some changes to their roster, to this team, as things have not been working out as planned. So I'll get into that, get into their offseason, get into the preview, get into kind of my prediction of what they could do in the offseason. We'll start off with that topic. Then we'll get into Aroldis Chapman and the Yankees. I'm going to talk about Chapman. I mean, it's been terrible. He has not been pitching good. He's not been pitching to his ability. I mean, he started off the season as so dominant. I mean, he was closing every game. He went through his first 11, 12 appearances without letting up a run. He was dominant earlier in the year. I mean, it was almost like whenever he would go out there against a team, he felt so confident. And now his confidence is completely low, and Yankees fans' confidence on him is completely low, if a number at all. I mean, you think Yankees fans have completely lost all confidence in Chapman. I'm going to get into him, kind of get into maybe what's a little bit wrong with him, and get into if they should move him out of the closer role. Because I said it yesterday before the ninth inning started, or not the ninth inning, well, technically the ninth inning, but the seventh inning started yesterday. I said they should have kept Green in. He only threw 2 pitches. He did his job. They should have kept Green in. And I'm telling you what, if Chapman continues to struggle, I think you got to see Chad Green, or when Zach Britton gets healthy, or one of those guys take over the closer role. Because you can't be telling me that Chapman's going to continue to go out there and blow games like this. I mean, we had that game in the bag. We don't put Chapman out there, more than likely we win, and we win the series. And and today as a Yankee fan, you're looking at this team as a whole, a way different view. Are you still we're not too happy with 42-41, and we would have been 43-40 if we would have won to both yesterday's games. But still, you would have been much more happier today if you got the win than just squeaking out that Sunday night nightcap win, right? It would have been a whole lot different. So I'll get into that, get into those games, get into his struggles and all that stuff. Don't finish off with the New York sports update. Not much going on tonight in New York sports. Mets play, that's it. Yankees day off, Mets play today. So not a crazy action-packed night in New York sports, but nonetheless, we still have baseball and we still got the Stanley Cup on. So, still got a lot of sports on tonight. As the Stanley Cup, today's possibly the final game of the hockey season. Lightning win today. They sweep the Canadiens. They win back-to-back. And then you got the NBA. And after the NBA's done, it's baseball for 2 months until we get the football season. So, a lot of baseball still to come. But, with all that being said, as always, this is the BSN podcast. And, let's get into it. So, obviously, a lot on the plate for today's Monday podcast. But let's get into this here first off. Obviously, on Friday, I wanted to get into the Clippers, or I told you I was going to get into the Clippers on that Monday, or on Monday, which is obviously today, July 5th here. So, obviously, the Los Angeles Clippers, yet again, another playoff exit. I don't even know if you want to call this an early playoff exit, because it's one of these things where it's not like they got knocked out in the first or the second round. I mean, they got knocked out in the Western Conference Finals. I mean, they were 2 wins away from making the NBA Finals. So I don't even really know if I want to call this an early playoff exit, because it's not like they got knocked out in the first round or got knocked down in the second round, or, I mean, terrible, they didn't even make the playoffs at all. It's not like they had anything like that. They did get to the Western Conference Finals with the Los Angeles Clippers, obviously, this season. And obviously kind of a timeline of this Clippers team, if you can think of one. And like I said, I got a lot to get to with this segment. The Los Angeles Clippers obviously went out and you had the big offseason, which was not this most recent offseason, but the offseason prior, going out and getting, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and bringing them both in. And, everyone was like so excited. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Los Angeles Clippers, the LA Clippers, they're going to be the new, team of the NBA. They're going to dominate everyone in their path. And we were all expecting this dominant from this team. And obviously, going to last year, the 2020 season, such a weird season. You played and then you got stopped, and then you're off for a couple months, and you go into the bubble and you don't play well in the bubble. You were terrible in the bubble. You got knocked out, and it was kind of just one of those things where it was like, okay, like, yeah, we got knocked out, but it was just so weird. You got the season got put on pause, obviously due to everything with the virus, and then you go to the bubble, and you just were not good, and you were terrible, and it just wasn't the same Clippers team that we saw throughout the regular season. And you're looking at this season, you're like, okay, like this year you gotta try to find a way. And like I mentioned with superstar teams and super teams, and this is why but this is why MJ and that 90s Bulls team was so special, because they stuck together. That was not a team that lasted 2-3 seasons and that was it. That team lasted throughout the 90s, won 6 rings, right? That's not a team that was 1-2 years and they were done. But most recently, we've seen superstar teams be 1 to 2 years and they're done. And that's the risk that you take when you build a superstar team. That's the risk that you take. You take that risk of, let's give up a lot of our future draft picks, prospects, young players. Let's go out and get 2-3 superstars and go all in for a championship. And that's what the Clippers did. That's what the Warriors did. That's what the Heat did with LeBron and them. That's what the Nets just did. Obviously, they're only really in the first season, and they did it even more when they went out and traded for James Harden. The Nets, actually, I should take that back. The Nets built theirs a little differently because they signed guys. They didn't go out and trade for them. They did go out and trade for Harden. They gave up a whole lot, so they did a little differently. As these other super teams, they more signed players. The Nets went out and actually traded for Harden. They did sign Kyrie and KD, but they went out and gave up a lot for Harden. And obviously now you have the big three. Year one's down with them. And now this upcoming season for the Nets, this is a big year. I mean, I think this year you got to win it. You don't win it this season, there's going to be a lot of question marks going into year 3. But we'll get to that. That's still far down the road here. The season's still going on. But that's the big question mark with the Clippers now. 2 seasons are done, and you have not made the finals. And if you're the Clippers this season, right, the Lakers get knocked out of the playoffs really early. And everybody in the Western Conference, that was kind of the team that you looked at going into the season that, you know what, everyone in the NBA, that's going to be the team that's going to be really difficult to beat. And that was the big thing. The Lakers, everyone was expecting to go back-to-back. Anthony Davis, LeBron, as long as they stay healthy. They won it last year. No reason why they can't win it again this season. And when the Lakers got knocked out in the first round by the Phoenix Suns, you're a Clipper fan or you're a Clipper player, you got to feel pretty confident that, like, wow, the Clippers got knocked out. Like, that was the team we couldn't beat. That's our rivals. That's the team that we didn't want to play. They got knocked out. And now you're sitting here and you're like, okay, all right, we have a chance here. And they go on and beat, beat the Jazz, and they beat, obviously, the Mavericks, then they beat the Jazz, and then they move on and go play the Suns, and they fall down 2-0. They come back 2-1, then they go down 3-1, then they win 3-2. They go back home, they lose Game 6. and you're thinking, or they lose Game 6, and that's it for their season. And as a Clipper fan, as a Clipper player, as the coaching staff and the organization has got to feel so frustrated. Because are the Lakers, LeBron, he showed some real signs of aging this season, was not the same LeBron, really struggled. Just didn't look like the LeBron James we all expected to see. Could that team be the same? I don't know. But this year seemed like your golden opportunity. Like Paul George was having a good playoff. The Lakers got eliminated. Like everything was in place for the Clippers to make the NBA Finals, and yet they didn't. And I understand Kawhi Leonard got injured, and that was a big, that really hurt them a lot. Paul George still had a very good playoff series. He did everything he could to try and, get that team to the finals and ultimately try to win the finals. But at the end of the day, they didn't have Kawhi, and that was a big issue. And are the Clippers, that's one of the big questions going into this offseason. Like, are the Clippers going to go out and are they going to use the excuse of, Kawhi was unhealthy. If we're healthy, we win that series. Or if we have Kawhi, then we beat the Suns and we're in the NBA Finals right now. But this is the only issue. We're 2 years into this super team, or this supposed team that is supposed to win it all and supposed to do all these great things. We're 2 years into it and they haven't even made the NBA Finals. And I know it might sound crazy to say, we're 2 years into it. Is it time to think to blow this thing up? But that's how super teams are. They only last about 2, 3, maybe 4 years at best. That's how it is. Because the goal to bring in a super team is to win a championship in a short window. Right? You're not looking at the big picture of 7, 8 years trying to win a championship in that span. When you build a super team, the expectation that season is to win the championship. You don't win it that year, then you give them the next year. They don't win it that year, then you got to think of maybe there are changes that need to be made. Because can we go another year paying the money that we're paying and not going to win it again? And that's a question the Clippers front office has to face. And I get it. Kawhi Leonard was hurt. And you were down to Paul George. Your big two was down to one. I understand that. And the Phoenix Suns have had an amazing playoff run. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. That team has been so much fun to watch. And I hope they go on and win the finals. They're a very exciting team to watch. They're a very young team. They're just a very likable team. Chris Paul going out for his first finals win. First finals victory. That's exciting to watch. It's a guy who's had so much in his career, has done so much, has played so well. He's never been able to get to that next level. He's finally there. It would be great to see him win one. I understand that. But still, you're 2 years into this supposed super team, 2 years into this team that's supposed to do great things and deliver rings, and you haven't even gotten to the NBA Finals. And are they going to go out and go all in one more year? Or are they going to maybe add another star and go all out? And if they don't do it, they destroy everything. Or, that's the thing. This is the Clippers. This is out of their control of what Kawhi Leonard does. He's got a player option, not a team option, a player option. If he wants to, he can opt out of his contract, become a free agent, and any of the NBA teams can go out and try to grab him. If he decides to opt in and not be a free agent, then do the Clippers go the route of, okay, well, let's go out and try to add another superstar. Or let's go out and try to add another really solid player. Because you got, a decent supporting cast. Reggie Jackson and obviously, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Their supporting cast is all right. It's nothing crazy. Pat Bev, I don't like him, but I guess you can kind of consider him a name. You look at, outside of Paul George, and that's how any super team is no one crazy. You have, Cousins and Nicholas Batum, and, you look at some of these guys on the roster, you look at the starting lineup, Marcus Morris Sr., Patrick Beverley, Reggie Jackson, Trey Mann, and Paul George. That was their starting lineup for Game 6. Now, you had Kawhi Leonard on there. Probably Marcus Morris Sr. is out of the lineup, so that's kind of your starting lineup. So the supporting cast isn't amazing. It's nothing crazy. That's how it is with super teams. You have 2, 3 really good players, maybe 1 or 2 solid players, and the rest are kind of just there. They're just kind of roster holders. But that's what you got to wonder. The Clippers could go into this offseason. They got to go into this offseason open-minded. Because the Clippers offseason will start when Kawhi Leonard makes his decision. Because that's how, if he decides to become a free agent, I think if you're the Clippers, you got to restart. Nothing against Paul George, nothing against the rest of the guys on the roster, but I don't think they can get the job done without Kawhi Leonard. And it showed in the playoff series. Paul George was dominant. It wasn't enough. They needed Kawhi. Kawhi's healthy. I would say they win. I had him going to the finals of my bracket. I had him beating the Suns. If Kawhi was healthy, I think they win that series. So I do think if Kawhi becomes a free agent, you've got to hit the restart button. Now, do you keep Paul George for another year and maybe bring in another superstar, like maybe a Lillard or someone like that? Maybe. But if Kawhi Leonard does become a free agent, decides to go out and opt out of his contract and become a free agent, I think you got to hit the restart button if you're the Clippers. And I mean rebuild, restart. Like, you could probably give up Paul George to another team, maybe a team that wants another superstar, get a lot in return for him, and build your team, from young players. Maybe keep a couple players right now on the roster, create a lot of cap space, just get a lot of money back, and just all that stuff. Build up with draft picks, build up with young talent, and restart. Now, if Kawhi Leonard does decide to stay, the Clippers also have another complicated decision. Do you keep with Paul George and Kawhi and hope that they stay healthy and hope that they can do it, get the job done? Or do you go out and not necessarily go out and get a third star and create a big three, but go out and maybe get another solid role player, a guy that can hit threes, a guy that can, play solid guard, a guy that can come off the bench solid, right? Maybe another one of those guys. That might be the final little piece. Is that the little missing puzzle piece? Or do you just blow it all up, no matter what Kawhi Leonard or Paul George does? I would probably say the less likely is they're going to blow it all up. I don't think they will. I think they do. If Kawhi opts out of his contract and becomes a free agent, I would say they decide to blow it all up. And, maybe they go out and get another superstar. I don't know. Now, if Kawhi stays in his contract, I do think they stay the same. I don't think they go out and get a third star. Maybe they go out and, like I mentioned, get another point guard, another shooter, something like that. It doesn't have to be any big name player. It doesn't have to be Damian Lillard. It doesn't have to be, any of these big name guys. You don't have to make a massive trade for another guy. Maybe just a free agent out there that's going to give you quality minutes, give you, a guy that you can count on to give you 15, 17 points every night. Now can hit threes, play solid defense. Maybe that's what they need. Or there's just a simple option: don't do much with the roster and do it again next season, and in the hopes that when Kawhi is healthy, that they can get the job done. Because I do think when Kawhi is healthy, they get the job done. Kawhi Leonard, people, he's a 1. I do believe Kawhi Leonard's a 1, and he showed it. I know people say, "Oh, well, he doesn't play enough," and I get that. I understand. I don't like that. I don't like that he doesn't play that much. But he showed that he's a 1 in Toronto. He single-handedly took that team and took them to the finals and beat the Warriors. He single-handedly took that team to the finals. He made the game-winning shot against the Sixers. He was dominant throughout the playoffs, and he knocked off the Golden State Warriors, and I believe it was 6 games. Kawhi Leonard's a 1. So if you lose Kawhi Leonard, Paul George technically is a 2, and he's shown that throughout his career. Right, when he was in Indiana, he was technically a 1, never got them to crazy places. When he was back with OKC and Russell Westbrook, that never worked. They were kind of like, it was kind of like one of those, it was kind of like 2 guys that were a 2 trying to battle out for the 1 spot. That wasn't the case, it never worked. You now come to here, he's technically a 2. You look what happens when he tries to take over as a 1, they weren't able to get the job done. He needs another sidekick. So if Kawhi does leave, I think you got to make the assumption of you either go out and get another superstar to complement with Paul, or you just give up Paul George and you go out and just give up Paul George and you get someone else. But a lot of options. There's the option of sticking with this team, maybe adding another, solid player that can get out, come off and shoot and give you quality points, play good defense. You could, if Kawhi leaves, I guess you could bring another superstar. I don't think that's going to happen. If Kawhi leaves, you can blow it all up. Or the really unlikely option, no matter what Kawhi does, they blow it all up anyway. I don't think they will do that. I really don't. I think they want to win a championship. I think their hope is that Kawhi stays. But no matter what happens this season, if Kawhi stays this season, next year they got to make it and they got to win it. You can't tell me that next season, if they don't win it, this team's coming around again. You can't tell me, oh, let's run it back. You could say that this year. Okay, fair enough. You didn't make your first 2 years. Now the third year is a make or break year. But you can't, after next season, if they don't make it and they lose it. If they make it, it's one thing. But even if they make it and they don't win it, it's still a problem. If they don't make it next season and they lose again in the playoffs, you got to blow things up for the Clippers front office. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to blow it up. You got to start over because you can't go into another fourth season of, oh, let's try this out again. It's just going to be trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. That's a lot of times how super teams are. It's trial and error. You might win one championship in 4 years, which is good, but, from what people expect, that's why super teams, they're a big risk. They're a big risk. And the Clippers were willing to take the risk, and it hasn't paid off so far. Warriors took the risk. Not really. It's not really. It's a risk because if you go out and get all these guys and it doesn't work, it's going to blow up right in your face, and your future is going to be, iffy after that. Every time you build a super teams, it's taking a risk. Because if it doesn't work, you got a big issue on your hands. But if it does, it's great because you're hoisting up trophies and you got all these banners hanging in the rafters and all the fans are crazy and it feels like you're on top of the world. But in this case with the Clippers, it's like, yet again, it doesn't work. It's like, is the volcano really starting to slightly erupt a little bit? It's not a full eruption, but is it about to erupt right in our face? I think the Clippers this offseason have got to go through all options. I think they do. Now, if you ask me my opinion, I'll give you my opinion right now. What do I think the Clippers should do? I think they should wait and see what Kawhi Leonard does, personally. If Kawhi opts out, I think you restart. If Kawhi doesn't opt out of his contract and stays, with the team and stuff like that, I think you just go ahead and maybe go out and get another player. I don't think there's no need to go out and get a third superstar. Because then it's like this thing again, like, oh, what do we have? A 2-year timeline again here where we got to try to win it? I think you keep the team there. That's what I think. I think you got to wait on what Kawhi does. I don't think you just blow this thing up out of the blue. I really don't. Because, if Kawhi decides to stay and Paul George is obviously still staying, it's like you just blow it up randomly. It's like it's not going to make the fan base happy, number one, and, you don't know how Paul George and Kawhi is going to feel about it. But there's going to have to be serious options on the table. You're going to have to put all options out there. Expect anything this offseason from the Clippers. And that's why this offseason, I wouldn't really be surprised if the Clippers go the route of restarting. I wouldn't be surprised if Kawhi leaves. Now, I don't think Kawhi is going to be a free agent. I do think he'll stay, but that's just my opinion. And that's my prediction, and I've been wrong on many predictions. I've also been right on money. That's my prediction. We'll find out. But I think the Clippers offseason officially starts when Kawhi makes his decision. That's it. This is a big decision. Kawhi making his decision is really going to decide a lot of this future of this franchise. Is Kawhi's decision. It's going to decide it. But yet again, an early playoff exit. It's just like, what do you want to do? It's just one of those things where I think maybe now it's almost like not hitting the panic button, but you're hitting kind of the, you're hitting the button of, maybe some, there might be some, kind of, I don't know how to word it. I forget kind of what you call it. There might be some of that energy in the building of kind of just wanting it to, like, it's just, kind of just wanting, wanting to do something about it. You just don't know what. So, I think what the Clippers do this offseason, it's not simple, but I think it's this. You wait to see what Kawhi does, and whatever he does, that's how your offseason goes. Because if Kawhi opts out and decides to become a free agent and sign with another team, I think you restart. And I think it showed in that playoff series that they needed Kawhi. And if Kawhi decides to stay in his contract, then I think you run it back. And no matter what happens next season, I think next season's big. If you win it, good. If you don't, then you got to blow things up. But I think this season, you wait and see, and we'll find out. But, I mean, you look at how the team is. I mean, Kawhi Leonard led the way, points per game, 30.4, rebounds and assists to Paul George. Kawhi led the team in steals. So, Kawhi's a big part of it. In the playoffs, Kawhi Leonard, he obviously played only 11 games, had 30.4 points per game. That was in the postseason. And in the regular season, Kawhi led the team with 24.8 points per game. He led the team in steals. So you'll see how everything plays out. But, Paul George, 19 games, obviously, 26.9 points per game in the postseason. Kawhi only playing 11 games, still led the way in points per game. I mean, Kawhi's your biggest point producer, and he's your best defender. And Kawhi can play very good defense. I mean, you see it here. I mean, he was averaging 2.1 steals per game. That's very good. And he was only slightly behind Paul George in rebounds and assists. 4.4 rebounds, or 4.4 assists and 7.7 rebounds. He was only slightly behind Paul George in those categories. And like I mentioned, he only played 11 games. So, no doubt, Kawhi's the best player on the team. But, that's why I think the decision becomes so big, is because it's what do they do, what does Kawhi do? And I think it showed. Kawhi's healthy, there's a good chance they beat the Suns. Now, even if he's not healthy, even if he doesn't play, right, even if he doesn't play and he's not healthy at all, they still were close to winning it. I shouldn't have said if. Even though he didn't play, they were still very relatively close. I mean, they were 2 games away. So it's not like they got swept and they were flat out terrible. They were competitive. They won 2 games in the series. But still not. They did get smoked in Game 6, and they lost 130-103 to finish off their season. But if Kawhi's healthy, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they win in 6, right? And I believe you're right. They didn't have Kawhi the entire series, I believe, right? Or did Kawhi? I don't think they had him I don't think they had him the entire series. Yeah, they didn't. They didn't have Kawhi the entire series for the Suns. So, it's not like he played the first 3 games and you could have got in front 2-1. It's not like he missed the final couple games. He didn't play the entire series. So we really won't know whether Kawhi was healthy or not, but all I can say is Kawhi not being healthy, going up against a really good Suns team, I think if you're the Clippers, you got to feel, maybe we do got to run this back depending on Kawhi. But that's my final thoughts here. The Clippers offseason will depend on what Kawhi Leonard decides to do. He's got a player option in his contract. He can continue with the Clippers and, say, hey, let's run this thing back and try again. Or he can go out, opt out of it, become a free agent, sign a very big deal somewhere else. I don't know where that is. But I'll tell you what, I said this a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the playoffs and the NBA playoffs. I said that if the Clippers get eliminated, it was going to create great entertainment for the offseason. And I meant that in a positive way. This is going to be an exciting thing to see this offseason. It's going to be big. It's going to be big. It's going to be big to see what Kawhi does, not just for the Clippers, for the rest of the NBA. Because if Kawhi opts out, where is he going? And wherever he goes, does he try to build another team there? And if Kawhi leaves, what do they do with Paul George? So that's why this offseason for the Clippers is going to be huge for the NBA. Because it's going to be one of these things where it's like this. These are big decisions. Not just for the Clippers, but for the rest of the NBA. So we'll see how it all plays out. But definitely a big offseason ahead of the LA Clippers. Alrighty, so with all that being said, on the Clippers offseason, comment down below your thoughts, what they should do, what you think they will do, also what you think the Kawhi will do. Obviously, I'll cover it throughout the offseason. Whatever Kawhi decides to do with his contract, I'll talk about it. But coming up next here, I wanted to get into Aroldis Chapman. He has not been good recently. Not been good is a nice way of saying it. But he's been terrible. He's been awful. He's not been good recently. And he blows yet again another save yesterday as the Yankees split the doubleheader yesterday. Mets won the first one. Yankees won the nightcap. I'm going to get into his struggles and get into what's wrong and get into if the Yankees should take him out of that closer role and put someone else in there. I'll get into that coming up next. Alrighty, so we welcome you back here. up on the podcast. So, obviously, with the New York Yankees yesterday losing, game one in the doubleheader. Obviously, this weekend, Yankees did not have a good weekend. And, I mean, there's a lot more issues to this Yankees team than just Aroldis Chapman. Obviously, some guys, in the lineup and, just some overall stuff throughout this team. There's still a lot more issues with this team than just Aroldis Chapman and just his recent struggles. But with the Yankees not having a very good weekend, and with them not having a very good game one yesterday and losing the series to the New York Mets and not getting the job done in a game that you took a lead into in the ninth inning is obviously extremely. Or the ninth inning. I keep saying ninth inning. See, these seventh inning doubleheaders are getting. They're weird because they're only 7 innings, but technically the ninth inning is 7 innings. So, obviously the ninth inning yesterday, in the seventh inning. In the 7-inning doubleheader, obviously a tough loss for the Yankees. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, Yankees lost the series. They did get the final game, the nightcap, which is, I guess, is good. But, even as a Yankee fan, you still don't feel confident. You're 42-41 on the season. And thanks for a Gio Urshela 3-run home run, or the Yankees lose the nightcap as well. But Yankees right now stand 42-41 on the season. And like I said, I'm going to get to Chapman, but I'm kind of just giving you an update on, the Yankees. And obviously now, we had for 3 against the Mariners. I can actually read your upcoming schedule. 3 against the Mariners, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then 3 against the Astros, and then obviously then you got the Red Sox, and then you got the Red Sox, and then you got the 4 against them. You got 2 against the Phillies, another 4 against the Red Sox, 3 against the Rays, and then you go to Marlins and stuff like that. So that's what the Yankees' upcoming schedule looks like. And to be as simple as I can possibly be, it's not a very good schedule coming up. And the Yankees' recent struggles most recently, because don't get me wrong, when the Yankees were struggling earlier in the year, Aroldis Chapman, who is an all-star this season thanks to his early season success, was a bright spot on this team. And there's no other way to put it. Chapman at the beginning of the season was a bright spot. I mean, he was a guy who was dominating earlier in the year, was closing down teams. He had like a 12-game stretch where he didn't allow a run. And it was just nuts. It was crazy. It was something that you don't see very often. He was dominant. He was just insane. And that's why he won that's why he is in the All-Star game. That's the only reason why. Now, recently, he's been terrible. And yet again, yesterday, he blows the game. And, I don't know why in the world he is throwing a 1-2 changeup to Pete Alonso, who went yard with it and hit a home run, and obviously that tied the game, and he hit Michael Conforto, and I believe walked the batter, and he blew up again. And that turned into a 10-5 lead, which the Yankees ended up losing, and then you win the nightcap, but you still lose the series. That's everybody's goal. If you can win each series, you'll be good. You don't have to sweep every series. You don't have to win every game. If you can win each series, if you can at least take 1 or 2 from each series, you'll be fine throughout the season. And in a 4-game set, if you can at least split it, you'll be fine. The Yankees this season have been very good at winning series. They have been good at salvaging the final game of the 3-game set. That doesn't matter. And why does Aaron Boone go to Aroldis Chapman again in the 9th inning? I don't know. Or the 7th inning. Apologies if I keep saying 9th inning. I'm so used to it. It was the 7th inning. He goes to him yet again in the 7th inning. And, I get it. You want to get his confidence back. And I know a lot of people, and I'm the same way. I was watching the game yesterday. I said to the other person I was watching with, I said, they should put Chad Green in this game. Right? This is a big game. This is a pivotal game. You win this game, then you go to the next game, you have an opportunity to win the series. And it's like, okay, we just won the series against the Mets. How bad this season has been, we just won the series against the Mets. And then they put Chapman out there and he blows the game like that. Right? I don't care I get it, you could try to get his confidence back. I get all that. But put him in the later game. right there and then, you should have put Chad Green back out there. He only threw 2 pitches in the 8th inning, the 6th inning. You should have put Chad Green back out there in the 6th, who only threw 2 pitches in relief in the 6th inning. Got a little pop-up, which is just what he needed. He got out of the inning. And then you should have put Chad Green back out there. You should not have put Aroldis Chapman, who has been terrible the last 8 to 12 appearances. He's at, like, they showed his stat on Yes Network. It was like a 12.49 ERA in his last, 8 appearances. You know, he blows the game against the Angels. He blows the game again yesterday. He can't even hold on to a 4-run lead anymore. And I get it. You might say, try to get his confidence back. The only way you're getting his confidence back if you throw him back out there. You know, sitting him, not letting him go back out there isn't going to get his confidence level back. But I feel like you're only destroying his confidence even more the more and more and more and more he continues to blow games and continues to fail. And you have a golden opportunity yesterday to win that game. And move on and play the Sunday night game, which was an opportunity to win the series. As bad as this season has been for the New York Yankees, you could beat your crosstown rivals in the New York Mets in the Subway Series and win the series, and you throw Chapman out there, and he blows the game. And it's not even so much, I get it, his command hasn't been good, and he hit a batter in Conforto. It's not even so much that, right? It's something... You know, if you can locate your fastball and get it at high velocity, you're going to be a very good pitcher in this league. So, all the people that are complaining that his fastballs, he's throwing too many fastballs, that's false. That's completely false. You got to look at the numbers. That's completely false. The issue with him is throwing sliders with 2 strikes and hanging those sliders. That's been the biggest thing. I don't think it's anything mechanical. It is a lot of mental stuff right now. His confidence is at an all-time low. I mean, I don't think your confidence would be very high if you were riding a 12 ERA for the last 10 starts, or however many it's been. It's been a lot. The whole month of June was a struggle for him. I mean, we throw him out there in an 8-4 game against the Angels, a game that was going until 1 in the morning, a rain game. An opportunity to just get the job done, and he couldn't get the job done against them because he hung a slider. And guess what? Yesterday, what did he do? He hung another slider. He's got to stop throwing all these 1-2 sliders when they're terrible. Right? If you're up 2 runs and they throw him out there and it's a 1-2 count and there's 2 outs, throw a slider. Do it. Worse, even if he hits a home run, okay, it's still a 1-run game. But in a game with no outs and a 1-2 count against a hitter that has been terrible in his career with high fastballs, we know that about Alonso. He got him the pitch before. On a fastball up in the zone, Alonso swung at it. We saw that, right? He got it up in the zone. You saw it on the box on television. They obviously have that strike zone box. We saw that, right? It hit right in the zone. Alonso swung at it. Alonso's entire career, he's been swinging at high pitches. Those high pitches, he takes those. He swings at those, He either pops them up or he swings and misses or they're a foul ball. He does nothing with them. Not many players do. Some players thrive with high pitches. Some players, if you throw a pitch high in the zone, they take that thing for a home run. We saw Urshela do that yesterday. He took a real high pitch in the zone, hit it out to right field for a 3-run home run. He doesn't hit that, we more than likely lose the game 2-1. And yet Chapman throws a slider. An 83-mile-an-hour cookie down the middle for Alonso, who is crushed. We know his power. We know his ability to hit home runs. And you throw him a slider there. And it's frustrating. And everyone can say, Higgy called a bad pitch. Well, why doesn't Chapman shake that off? If Chapman really trusts his stuff, he shouldn't be throwing a slider there. Because his fastball was working. His command was working too. It's been a long time, I think, since Chapman started off a guy with a strike. He's been walking too many guys, and he's been letting up a big hit. But when you throw in a 100-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone, that's not an easy thing to hit. When you throw an 83-mile-an-hour slider hanging, a lot of MLB hitters can capitalize on that. I don't care if you're batting 150, that's a hit. That's a home run for you. It's much easier for an MLB hitter to hit an 83-mile-an-hour hanging slider than a 100-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone, especially to a guy that capitalizes on off-speed pitches and a guy that struggles with fastballs up in the zone. We're all analytical, right? You're all this analytical guru, right? Go back with the fastball. I get it, it's 2 strikes, and I get it, there's only 1 ball, so even if he doesn't capitalize on the slider, it's 2 balls, 2 strikes. You still got another pitch. It's not like it was a 3-2 count, and you threw the, stuff like that. I get it. It was only 1 strike. It was only 1 ball. So even if he doesn't throw the slider well and it's a ball, it's still 2-2. But still, fastball, 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 fastball. That's what you got to do. It's what a lot of these closers are doing. You don't have to be anything special as a closer. The greatest closer of all time, 652 saves, Mariano Rivera. He had 2 pitches he threw. 2 pitches. He mastered those 2 pitches, and he's the best closer of all time. You don't need all these different pitches. You don't need all this stuff now. Chapman will really only throw a slider and a fastball, but if you can master 1, maybe 2 pitches, you'll be good. Chapman, I feel like right now, has already mastered the fastball. He's trying too hard to master the slider. That's ain't it. That's not it. When he's good, when he's on, he's throwing fastballs. He's getting those fastballs up in the zone, and he's getting guys to swing under him. He's getting guys to pop up, and he's getting guys to swing and miss. And his slider's been terrible. Why do you continue to throw it? It's extremely frustrating. I don't know why he continues to throw those. When he was with the Reds in the beginning of his career, it was just insane. He was throwing fastball, 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 fastball. And that's when he was in his prime of his career. Comes the Yankees, fastball, fastball, fastball. And now recently, he's just been relying on a slider that isn't working. And he's blowing games for the Yankees. And that's not on Chapman, but Boone, that's a bad decision on Boone. If you want to start all this fire Boone stuff, which I disagree with, but that yesterday was a pure example of bad decision making. That's what you want to judge your manager on, is decision making. Boone made a bad decision. He put Chapman into the game. And I get it, you want to build his confidence up. Letting him just sit there, watch the game, isn't going to get his confidence back up. I understand that. But in a 1-run game, when Chad Green's had a very good season, and he's been good recently as well, he does the job when he goes out there, you got to put Chad Green back out there. You got to. And Chad Green showed in the nightcap too, which made it even worse. Like, I get it, Chad Green with that immaculate hitting in the nightcap game. I get it. It was like rubbing salt on the wound, though. It did not feel good. Like, watching him throw the immaculate inning and then saying, like, wow, we put Chapman in instead of this guy, it was just so much more. It made it more frustrating, actually. Watching him dominate in the second game, watching him throw, 50-something pitches or something like that, and having, I don't know, what was it? It might have been 35 pitches, I think, or something, 27 of them were strikes or something. It was insane, his strike-to-ball ratio. And then you put Chapman out there, and he hangs a slider and gives it right to a power hitter. That's another thing, too. Alonso's a power hitter. He hits home runs. Hanging off-speed, hanging sliders, trying to change speeds on a guy is only going to help the hitter, power hitter. A lot of power hitters, they capitalize on those little cookies down the middle. They don't, high in the zone, they either don't swing at them or they swing at them and they get under them. Alonso's been that way his entire career. And they go to the slider. And I said it. I said it again. I said it right before he threw that pitch. I said they should not throw a slider here. Because Jared Walsh, who hit the grand slam off of him in the game against the Angels, that was a hanging slider. Jared Walsh took that and capitalized on it. Hanging slider yet again yesterday. Simple as that. That's got to be something that you work in the bullpen. That can't be something that you go out there and hopefully my slider is going good today. No. It's frustrating, but Chapman blows it yet again. Then what? Then he had the hit by pitch. I completely forget what happened after that. I was so mad. I was kind of just zoned out at that point. It was like a hit by pitch, and then it was like a walk, and then it was first and second, nobody out. Then they brought in Litke, and then things blew up from there, and the Yankees lost. And then you go into the second game, and the Yankees win, which is nice, but it's still not something to be proud of. It's frustrating. It's Yankees right now are not playing good baseball, and to lose a series against the New York Mets hurts, and no other way to put it. So, frustrating to see Chapman blow another game, but that's how he is, and he's in a massive funk right now. It's pretty crazy. He's in a massive funk right now. There's no other way to put it. No other way to put it other than he is in a massive funk, and it's not going good. So, he's got to find a way to be much better. He's got to find a way to break out of this because he's losing games for the New York Yankees. Single-handedly blowing games for the New York Yankees. There's no other way to put it. Who blew the game yesterday for the New York Yankees? Chapman. Who blew it against the Angels? Chapman. The Yankees put 5 runs on the board. Can't hold on to that, then I don't know what to tell you. And same thing with the game against the Angels. You put up 8 runs. Can't hold on to a 4-1 lead. You got problems. And I feel bad because then Litke comes in and Litke inherits first and second, nobody out. And you're like, geez, what did Litke ever do to you? The guy, that's why I feel bad. Like, Litke's numbers might look bad, but he's not that bad of a pitcher this season. It's been an issue because he comes in to pitch and he inherits either bases loaded with nobody outs, first and second, nobody out, or he inherits a game that just got tied off of a grand slam, and now he's got to come in and try to get 3 outs against a heart of an order, because by then they've already batted through the order. So, and I think if you're Boone after that home run, I think you pull him right away. I think Boone should have pulled him right away after that home run. That's another thing too. Instead of making it first and second, nobody out, then pulling him. Like, it was, the Yankees started to bleed, and then the bleeding continued, and then all of a sudden, it was just the Yankees blew up. And that's how it was. You let up that home run, I think you got to get rid of it. I think that's what the Yankees should have done. They should have warmed up Litke right when Chapman went out there. And once Chapman left that home run, you get rid of you take him out. He only had 4 pitches. I don't care. You got to take him out of the game. Right then and there, they should have took him out of that game, and they didn't. And Chapman blows another, and the Yankees stand 1 game above 500, 83 games through the season. So, Yankees got to be better. It got to be better, and it's terrible. It's just ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly losses. It's losing to your crosstown rival. It's blowing games like this. You go to you get to playoffs. You get to the playoffs late in the season. You get to round playoffs, and if you're battling for a playoff spot, you're going to look back at these games. You're going to look back at these games where you had them in the bag, you had them secured, and you blow it. That's what you're going to do. I did as a Ranger fan. Right, the Rangers blew a lot of games early in the year. We only were 11 points out of a playoff spot. You look back at, the 5, 6, 7, 8 games that we blew. We win 5 or 6 of those. It's a completely different story. Now that's how the Yankees are. It's a team that's going to be battling for, if they are going to try to be in the playoffs, it ain't going to be easy. They're not just going to get in with a cakewalk. They're going to have to try to battle their way in, if they even make it. So, not a very good weekend for the Yankees, 1-2, and not a very good weekend for Chapman. Yet again, he blows another. All right, so let's get into the New York sports update to finish off this podcast for today. Obviously, the Lightning won game 3. That was on Friday. And today we got the Lightning Canadians. I think the Lightning do win today. Canadians just haven't been good. They haven't been good, period. Bucks, Hawks. Bucks won 118-107 on Saturday. So the Bucks move on. Hawks get eliminated. And the NBA no games today. The NBA Finals will start tomorrow. Suns versus the Bucks. That should be a good series. As for yesterday in the MLB, the Giants won, Angels won, Red Sox won, Mariners won, Rockies won, Braves won, Twins won, Tigers won, Padres won, Astros won, Reds won, Cheaters won, Reds won, Rays won, Pirates won, and Dodgers won. Let's see here. Yankees, obviously, like I mentioned, lost the first game 10-5, won the second game 4-2. And for the Mets, it's vice versa. Yankees are 42-41 on the season. As for today, we got the Dodgers, Cardinals. I'll give Dodgers. Sorry about that. Giants, Cardinals. I'll give Giants the win. Dodgers, Marlins. I'll give Dodgers the win. How my app's set up here, it's the games are back to back. So I accidentally saw the Dodgers, said Dodgers. But it's Cardinals, Giants. Giants, Cardinals. I'll give Giants the win there. And Dodgers, Marlins. Give me the Dodgers. Then Braves, Pirates. I'll give Braves the win. We'll get to the Mets in a second. Rays, Indians. I'll give Rays the win. Twins, White Sox, I'll give White Sox the win. Cubs, Phillies, give Cubs the win. Rangers, Tigers, give Rangers the win. Let's see. Royals, Reds, give Royals the win. Angels, Red Sox, give Angels the win. And Padres, Nationals, I'll give Padres the win. All right, as for the Mets play today. Mets come in this game 43-37. Brewers come in this game red hot 51-34. Milwaukee's got Brandon Woodruff on the mound. He's 7-3 with a 1.87 ERA, and the Mets got got McGill on the mound. He is 0-0 with a 4.82 ERA on the season. Over under 7.5 for this game. This game comes on today, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find this game on SNY and obviously, you can find this game on SNY and I'm sure some other networks out there. McGill, who is pitching today, Tyler McGill, he's not a very big name, but you got Brandon Woodruff on the mound, who's a very big name. Pretty big name throughout the league. And 62% of people think the Brewers will win this game. I think the Brewers will win, despite the Mets having success this weekend. The Brewers have been red hot. I think they will win. Actually, let me get up the Brewers stats here. I could pull up the MLB here. Let's get up. So, the standings right now. Let's go to the Brewers. So, the Brewers right now are first in their division. They've created insane separation. It went from being close to now they're up 7 games in their division. They're 51-34, and they are 9-1 in their last 10. They're on a losing streak of 1 now because they lost yesterday against the Pirates. But they won like 10 games straight. So they're on fire right now. Even though they lost yesterday, they're still on fire. Still 9-1 in their last 10, which is crazy. Alrighty, as for fantasy baseball, I won last week, so that's good. I won 315 to 248. So I've won 3 of my last 4, so going pretty good there. And I moved to 8-5 on the season. And as for today, I've got Yadier Molina. Here's the team I got going today is Yadier Molina, Jake Cronenworth, Whit Merrifield, Austin Riley, Josh India, Gene Segura, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Avisail Garcia, and Will Smith. And Joe Musgrove's on the mound. Other than that, an update for Alex Bregman, who got an update yesterday. Bregman quadriceps has begun light running, but he will not return before the All-Star break. So, positive news on him there. He'll do some light running, but won't return till the All-Star break. All right, so I made a move. If you heard that I said Josh India's in my lineup, I have made a move. So Yerman Mercedes got optioned to AAA. So he got optioned to AAA, and so I dropped him, and I picked up Josh India. So I will probably make a move. I'm going to probably make a move actually now. I've been thinking about dropping Josh India, and the reason I say that is because he hasn't been very good since I've gotten him, and Josh Harrison's been much better. So I'm actually probably going to pick up Josh Harrison here and drop Josh India, just because it's the same thing, second and third base, and he's having a better season. So I will do that. And now I've got Josh Harrison in my lineup, who this season is batting .276, 26 runs scored, 4 home runs, 24 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, and 122 points. And recently he's been good. 2 points, 1 point, 2 points, 1 point, 5 points. He's been good recently. So position rank is 20, 1.7 averages points, and 22.3 roster percentage. And I dropped Josh India who this season is not as good as Josh Harrison. Or actually, he's a little bit better in terms of overall stats, but recently he hasn't been good, and since I picked him up, he hasn't been good. Since I picked him up, he's -2, 2-8-1. So, and yesterday he got 0 points. So he hasn't been very good for me. So, Jonathan India, rather, is his name. And, yeah, so added Josh Harrison. I believe Josh Harrison is the only acquisition. Okay, no, so someone has had him already before, and they dropped him, and I added him. So that should be interesting. To be honest, all of this is going on. I will probably get rid of. I probably won't. Actually, no, it all depends. But once Bregman comes back, there will be other roster moves that will have to be made. Josh Rojas is a guy I've been thinking about maybe starting to get rid of. He's starting to really struggle. -1 points in his last 3 games. He got 1 point, 1.2 points, so hasn't been very good recently either. His batting average has dropped all the way down to 250. So he's a guy that I might actually get rid of once Bregman comes back, but I do need to make room for third base. So it all depends. It all depends on how everything plays out. The hope is to have. Josh Harrison's been good this season. He's been actually a very good pickup for the Nationals. I mentioned him a couple days ago. Fantasy terms, he's been good, but I haven't really needed him. But now with Mercedes going down and Bregman already on the IL, it was like time to grab another. It was time to go out and grab another third baseman, second baseman, whatever you want to call it. Give me flexible. So, but yeah, that's what I got for the podcast here today. So another good podcast in the books. Like I said, tomorrow will be NBA Finals, and I want to talk about Chris Paul. I just don't know when, because I don't want to talk about him really during the series. I mean, I might talk about him, I guess, during the series. Especially if they win, I want to talk about him, because that's been an excellent season for him. Pretty crazy story with he's been good throughout his career. He's never gone to this point, so it's pretty cool to see him finally get to the finals. But I want to do my preview, my game pick, like I did with the Stanley Cup. If there's any other news, and there's a lot of NFL stories I got to get to. NFL training camp, it's soon. July 23rd, I believe, started training camp. So right around the corner. So NFL is starting to heat up. I will definitely get into a lot of those stories and a lot of those topics as it gets closer here. And obviously, like I mentioned, baseball, I guess you can kind of say, is officially at the dog days of summer. We're in July. So almost towards the All-Star break. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.